I'm literally the next person in to go see Jim Zorn. And I get a call from my agent. He's like, Chase. He's like, Chase, walk out right now. I'm like, what? No. Like, what do you mean walk out?
It is a scientific fact here at Half Forgotten History. We have the smartest listeners around. And we want you to be smart with your money too, because that's kind of a big deal. And U.S. Bank offers a wide range of credit cards for a wide variety of financial needs. And one of its most useful cards is the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card. With a low introductory APR for 24 billing cycles, this card is a tool for getting ahead. The U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card is a savvy financial move for large purchases, unexpected expenses, we all have those, and balance transfers. And with the ability to customize your payment date, this card really gives you control and flexibility over your financial future. Apply now at usbank.com/platinum. With the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card, you can be worry-free for the next 2 years. And to see if you qualify for the best introductory APR out there, visit usbank.com/platinum. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Some restrictions may apply. Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here. Welcome into another episode of Half Forgotten History. Season 7 comes to a close with the King. Well, I mean it, the King. No one has made more in the NFL by playing less than this week's guest. He's about to enter his 14th year in the NFL, 5 career starts, 8 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, and $40 million in career earnings. No one has nailed the business of football better than this week's guest, Chargers backup quarterback, Chase Daniel. All right, so we got to start here, right? How does William Chase Daniel, undrafted in 2009, end up with more career earnings than the second overall pick and Heisman Trophy winner of the 2012 draft, RG3, and have a longer playing career than the first overall pick of 2012, quarterback Andrew Luck? How does this happen?
How did I know you were going to lead with this question? Oh, no. I mean, I don't know. I think it was right place, right time, knowing the right people, getting involved with the right coaches that get head jobs, and ultimately playing well. You got to play well. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, I cannot believe that I'm entering year 14. It's like, seemed like just the other day, I was an undrafted rookie, signed with Washington, got cut, signed with New Orleans, won a Super Bowl the first year behind like 2 living legends, Breeze and Brunell. And I mean, did I think I'd be playing now? No, absolutely not. There's no way.
But the thing about you, which is great, is you embrace it. Like, I remember in December, Ryan Clark, whom I love, RC tweeted out the definition of a blowout is Chase Daniel in the game. And of course, I retweeted with, hold up, man, bow to the king of backup quarterbacks. And you retweeted and said, y'all are funny. Like, you get it, right? Yeah. You know what you are in the league.
I totally get it. And, I've been blessed and lucky enough to be able to play that long, to be honest with you. And absolutely, like I maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, when I thought that I was still like, I still think I'm capable to be a starter. Like, I might have been like, what are these guys talking about? But now it's just like, hey, it's part of the deal. I think it's funny. I love it. I'm just trying to set up a life for my kids, and I'm healthy. My brain's healthy. My body's healthy. So who knows how much longer I can keep playing, but I'm going to keep till they kick me out of the league.
Hey man, give me the Chase Daniel deal any day of the week. I'd sign up for that tomorrow. But like, your NFL career is sort of an extension of your entire playing career, right? You went to a legendary high school, Carroll High School in Texas, and the team that you wanted to recruit you didn't recruit you, right? Texas. They wanted you, and you wanted them, and they didn't want you.
Yeah, that was interesting, because I played, like you said, at South Lake Carroll, and it was, we won a national championship.
It's a big deal for people that don't know. Like, it's in terms of high school football, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
There's no doubt. And so when you're playing there at the highest classification, and you're the best team in the state by far, and you're the best team in the nation, or you think you are, you go 16-0. I was 47-1 in 3 years there. You go on to Missouri, and you're like, wait, Missouri? Like, no, I want to go to Texas. And Texas, by far, my sister went to UT. I spent a lot of time down there. And a lot of people don't realize, but Ryan Perlew, was committed
Yeah.
there. He decommitted. Colt McCoy then committed there, and then on signing day, like I had been committed to the University of Missouri for a year, and Mike Brown called my coach Todd Dodge, who actually just retired, legendary coach in the state of
Yep.
Texas, and was like, "Hey." Before he could even get a word out, Todd was like, "He's not. He's set. He's set." Because my word was my bond, and my dad always taught me that. But yeah, it stung a little bit not being able to go to Texas, but I think it by far still worked out because Colt McCoy is still playing. I'm still
Yeah.
playing. University of Texas did amazing things. University of Missouri did amazing things. So it all worked out.
That says something, right? Because you had the opportunity. Like you, if you had wanted to change course, which players do all the time now, even when they're
Yeah.
in college, you could have said, "Hey, this is my dream. It's where I've always wanted to play." And I don't think anybody would have held it against you, but you decided you just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I was raised a certain way, and my dad was like, even like, I remember, like, there's some crazy stories, but like, I remember this story. I was 10 or 11 years old. I'd already been in Taekwondo, liked it. I was like working my way up to a black belt. But my dad one day was like, "Hey, let's try boxing." I'm like, "Absolutely, let's try boxing." Like, yeah, I get to beat up on some people. And he was always telling me, like, you can never quit. When a Daniel starts something, you must stay the course. You must try your very best and you must see it through. That is what is expected. And that has always been the case. Well, anyway, I start boxing and it's like the gold gloves, like minor league, like minor system. And I start stepping in the ring and seeing some of these guys. And like, I'm like very just like, oh, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get hit. And like two or
Yeah.
three spars in, like, boom, caught me in the nose, like nosebleed. 2 weeks later, boom, nosebleed. And I'm like, after the third nosebleed, my mom was like, "He is done. Like, he is quitting." So that is like literally the only time in my life my dad's allowed me to quit anything. But I think that's sort of like instilled in me, like, hey, like, see it through. Like, if you
Yeah.
if you commit and your word is your bond. I mean, it's so different nowadays. The NIL, all sorts of stuff, like who can pay the most, who can do that. But like back then, like it was a little simpler times, and it was like, hey, I committed. They were building an offense around me. Like if I decommit, then I ruin their entire program, entire thing of what they set up because that's the only quarterback they had. So for me, it was a big deal to just stay the course.
So you do that. You go to Missouri. Your first year, you're there behind Brad Smith, who went on and played a few years in the NFL. And then it really flourished for you, right? Did that sort of validate your decision?
I think so. But I will say, like the first like year, probably 8, 10 months, when I was up in at Missouri, I was like, "What am I doing? Where am I? I'm from a big town in Dallas."
I was about to say
Like completely.
Boone County, Missouri is not suburban Dallas. Let's just throw that out there
Yes,
for people that don't
yes.
know.
Boone County is like, but then like I just something clicked, and I just fell in love with it. The Midwest, the weather, the campus, the fan base. It's the only D1 school in the state of Missouri, so you get a bunch of like Missouri fans at the game, and it just sort of ended up like exactly how it was supposed to. And I definitely wouldn't have changed anything because if I go to Texas, then me and Colt, battle it out for the starting job at some point, and who wins. If I lose the
Yeah.
job, then I'm 2 years behind, so forth and so on. So I would think it worked out perfectly.
Well, you passed for what, over 12,000 yards, 100 touchdowns. You're considered one of the most successful quarterbacks in school history. So after the 2008 season, you had to be feeling pretty good about yourself. What were your expectations going into the draft that year?
I knew that it wasn't for going to be high, right? But
Yeah.
I felt talking to some people, putting my name in the little draft thing, like coming back, like, hey, do I leave as after a junior year? Because my junior year we finished, four in the nation. I finished third in the
Yeah.
Heisman. I was probably my better of the years. I threw too many interceptions my senior year, and I think that sort of hurt me. But at the time, like 6 foot was considered very short. Like it was
Yeah.
just at the start of the turning of the guard 2 or 3 years later. And 6 foot was like not the norm. Now it's like, hey, if you can play quarterback, you can play quarterback. I mean, Kyler Murray, I mean, there's a list go on and on and on. And Russell, and I think for me, that was a little bit of a hard pill to swallow. I mean, because you go and you're the best, one of the best players in college football, and you're like, what do they not see in me that I see in myself? And so my goal was just like, hey, just get drafted. Like, just get drafted. Like, I don't care. Like, it's a big deal. Well, end up going undrafted. And I remember it was only two teams too. It was between the Washington football team, Commanders, right?
Commanders
Like
now,
whatever,
yeah.
like yeah, and Dallas. And Dallas had just drafted, for all you old folks in there, Stephen McGee, Texas A&M,
I remember
in the
Steve.
third round. And I was like, oh man, like, I don't know. And then my buddy, rest in peace, Cole Brennan, was up there, and we were buddies because we had met at the Heisman the year before. And so it sort of influenced me to go that route. I was a fourth guy, got maybe 2 reps in practice. And I remember Coach Jim Zorn at the time was like, hey, listen, normally the 4 gets 0 reps. We're going to give you some reps in preseason. And I think I played like 3 quarters in 4 preseason games and threw like 4 or 5 touchdowns. So it was like one of those things that it was like coming full circle, like, hey, you're not going to get a lot of opportunities, but when you play, you better play well, and you better get your film out there, because not only are you playing for your team, you're playing for 31 other teams and trying out.
Right.
And so I think that was a really big situation for me.
So before we get into what happened in your pro career, I want to go back. What was the draft weekend like? You had to think someone was going to pick you, right?
I did, and when it started getting like 5th, 6th round, I was like, oh my gosh, like. And then at some point, my agent called, and he actually like made a really good point. He's like, "Hey, if you're going in the 7th, let's just go free agent route, because you get to choose.
Yeah,
You
right.
get to choose where you go, and you could choose a situation." So that sort of happened, and round 7 goes, and I don't get drafted. And I think for me, it just sort of left a chip on my shoulder, if that makes sense. Like if it wasn't one already, because I guess I was too short. Didn't throw a hard enough ball, played in shotgun at 7.5 yards deep all the time. Like, I don't know what it was. But for me, it just was like, hey, you always got to work. Like, if you really, really, really want to commit yourself to the National Football League and being an NFL quarterback, like, you have to work, and you have to work hard.
By the way, that's the thing that not a lot of people understand. Look, everybody wants to say they were drafted, but honestly, if you're honest about it, once you get halfway through the 7th round, it's better for you to not get drafted, because, like you said, that is like a mini free agency, right? It's kind of crazy.
No doubt.
People don't understand how crazy it is. All the phone calls that start coming in once the draft is over, right?
Yeah, there's like even like 6th round, like, hey, I don't know if you're gonna get drafted, but hey, we're looking at you. It's literally like the wild, wild west. I mean, you saw some of the contracts this year; they're guaranteeing $300,000 on some of these deals. Some of these guys would get $80,000-$90,000 to sign. I got $5,000, and I was like beyond myself. I was like, this is the best day ever. And now people won't even like talk to anyone undrafted. It's like, hey, I need $100,000 signing bonus. I'm like, you guys have no idea.
If only Chase today could talk to younger Chase and say, you think that's good, wait till you see what's coming. So you get in there and you get those preseason reps. Did you think you had a shot to stick with Washington?
I haven't told this story a lot, but it's a funny thing that you asked, because I was just telling my wife about it the other day. Was I played so well, but I also understood at the time, like, hey, here's the numbers. And the numbers really do not add up. Like, very few teams keep 4 quarterbacks. Like, I'm like, all right, so well, they're not going to cut Jason Campbell. He's the starter. They're not going to cut Todd Collins. He's been around forever. Like, forever. He's the backup. And I'm like, it's me and Colt. And like, Colt was like a cult hero at the time for Washington, because his rookie year he played so well in the preseason, like won over the coaching staff, like was just slinging it. Everyone knows how prolific he was. And I just remember getting a call and like, hey, you've been cut. After the 4th preseason game, I threw like 2 touchdowns. I was like, oh, maybe I have a chance. Like, I don't know. So the phones are silent. Like, cut down is like 4 p.m. Eastern. I get a call like 3:58. I'm like,
oh, that's the worst. Oh,
I know. I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, do it early in the day. And I'm like, I mean, everyone that's listening out there, like, I understand what you're going through, because I'm sure there's a bunch of guys that have been like that. And I'm like, it's like, why wait till the last 2 minutes? Because I'm like, 4 p.m. I made the team. Oh my gosh! Like, who did they cut? Did they cut Colt? Like me? I didn't make it. And I remember going the next day, like, hey, we're gonna put you on practice squad. Like, whatever. And I go into Jim Zorn's office. I'm waiting in the line of practice squad guys. I think there was like 8 at the time. Now there's like 16. And I think I'm like 6th or 7th in line. And I get a call from my agent. And I'm like, I'm literally the next person in to go see Jim Zorn. And I get a call from my agent. He's like, Chase. He's like, Chase, walk out right now. I'm like, what? No. Like, what do you mean walk out? Like, he's like, get out of there. So I'm like, okay. So I literally go out to the front. He's like, let me call you right back. That's all he says. He says, get out of there. Let me call you right back. And I'm like, I'm 21 years old. And I'm like, what is happening? All of a sudden I get a call from a 504 area code, New Orleans, like literally like 2 minutes later. It seems like 30 minutes. It was 2 minutes later. And I pick up the phone and I'm like, hello? And I'm like, I better answer this. And it was Sean Payton. And Sean Payton was like, hey, listen, we want to bring you down here. We're going to have you on practice squad for 2 games. You're going to be the 3rd quarterback after that. And you're going to be with us the whole season. And I was like, well, he's like, you're going to learn from Drew and Mark. I was like, all right, fine. So literally didn't even go back in the building. Sure enough, 2 games in, I'm on practice squad. The 3rd game, it happened. I was on active for the next 10 games, ended up winning the Super Bowl the next year. They bring in Patrick Ramsey to compete with me. Yeah. Give me a shot to win the backup job. And I win the backup job and continue there for 3 more years. So it was a crazy story, but also even crazier, Trey. I haven't told this. This is an exclusive. So a couple years later, it's
breaking news.
Yes, one of the tight end coaches. I don't think a lot of people knew this. One of the tight end coaches at the time for Washington. His name will not be revealed. He's no longer coaching, but I see him on like the field, like 2 or 3 years later, and we're warming up, and I'm the backup, and I'm like, he's like, oh man, Chase, how's it going? Good to see you. He's like, you made the team in Washington. And I go, wait, no, I didn't. He's like, Chase, we waited till 3:58 because you were slated to be the 3rd quarterback. The owner came in and said, let's keep Colt Brennan because he sells more jerseys. And
that is the most Daniel Snyder thing of all time, by the way. I was going to ask you about Daniel Snyder, and you brought it up on your own. That guy is a nightmare.
Yes. And I was so past it, but at the same time, I'm like, that was like, oh, ding, 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 ding. This is the business of the NFL. Like, I totally get it. Like, but it was like, at the same time, I'm like, I actually made the team. So it was a little bit of like, oh, hey, like, I played well enough to do it, but it all ended up just fine. But I haven't told that story a lot, but I just was like, crazy.
Yeah, that's Daniel Snyder personified, if you think about it. And his team has been terrible since he's the worst owner that I know. So let's talk about that 2009 season for a second, because if you're going to go to the Saints, that was a really good year to go to the Saints. I think you and the Colts that year both started off 13-0 or 11-0? 13-0.
We were 11-0. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you lost that Thursday night game to Dallas, I think it was.
It was Dallas Thursday night, and then we lost the next 2. We start 13-0, lose the next 3.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, we still get first round bye because we'd won 13 games. We were the 1 seed. We're like, you got to come to the Superdome. And I just remember like that season was so much fun because there were some games, if you actually remember and you're actually a football nut, like the Washington game that year. Drew Brees we're down like 12 points in the 4th quarter, 14 points. Drew's crazy interception. Scrambles, throws it up. The guy is running it back. Robert Meacham strips him, takes the ball, runs down, scores. And I'm like, oh my God, there's just all these crazy memories of that year. Like games we probably shouldn't have won, and then teams we blew out, but we built confidence. Our defense had like 38 takeaways that year. Insane. But I mean, we go into the bye week and we're like, oh my God, we just lost 3 in a row. We need to get our stuff. And then we come out and pummel Arizona. I'm like, And then the Minnesota game is the kick, the Garrett Hartley kick, and then obviously the Super Bowl everyone remembers. So it was a whirlwind. Like I sort of wish I could go back in time and just really enjoy it. Like 14 years in, like, after we won the Super Bowl, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so easy to get back. Like, not even close. Like it's so difficult to put together a season, and it's really all about the health of player. Like we were so healthy that year, no injuries, and we just put it all together.
So there's 2 things I want to focus on that 2009 season. You mentioned the NFC Championship game and the Garrett Hartley kick. Yes, but that game will be remembered for the interception, right? Brett Favre is with the Vikings. He's driving them down into what will be a game-winning field goal scenario. And I think they were on borderline in field goal territory.
I think they're at the 40. Yeah, they were right out there.
What were you as a guy who has to be on the sidelines and just watching him
Yeah.
move them into a scenario where you know that they're in a potential to kick? What was going through your head as you're watching him take the Vikings on that drive?
I grew up a huge Brett Favre fan, so
Sure.
it was one of the first times we saw him play, and statistically was one of his best seasons ever. That
Yeah.
'09 season in Minnesota. And in my mind, I was just like, oh my gosh, like it's just like maybe not our year, because we honestly shouldn't have been in that game, but they had like 6 turnovers that game.
Yep.
Adrian Peterson fumbled 4
Crazy.
times.
Yeah.
Favre, I mean, crazy. And we still had to kick a game winner. But I mean, just watching him go to work, and I think it was like on a QA, a sprint out or something, just tried to throw across his body, and we had that interception. And it was just like, man, it was like meant to be. Like, we got to take care of business. But it was, I mean, honestly, like that game was rough. But I mean, I'm sure we'll get there. But the 2017 Case
Yeah.
Keenum Minnesota Miracle, I was on the sideline for that too with the Saints. Like that was
Yeah.
probably more heartbreaking, because it was like no time left. We thought we were going to win, but yeah, the '09 season. I mean, it was special in a lot of ways.
And so you get the interception, you kick the field goal, you go to the Super Bowl that year. It's Super Bowl 44, and there's all this sort of weird like symbolism that year. It was the 44th year of the Saints being in existence, their first ever Super Bowl. But everyone was talking about the Colts. Like it was, they won Super Bowl 41 in Miami. It's Super Bowl 44. They're in Miami. Peyton's at the peak of his powers. As good as you guys were, and I remember because we were there all week, as good as you guys were, everyone thought the Colts were going to win. And there's 2 plays in that Super Bowl that stand out for me. The Colts are up 10-0 in the first half, and it's a 3rd down play. And Manning hits Pierre Garçon, and he is wide-ass open. I mean, wide-ass open. He might have scored on that play if he just held on to the ball. If nothing else, they were going to get in field goal range. Like they were going to go up either 13-0 or 17-0, and he drops the ball. Like he just flat out drops the ball. And Pierre Garçon had a great career. He had a bunch of tremendous catches, but that one is like, I cannot believe he dropped the ball. Did that feel like, geez, we have life now? Like, because you guys were getting rolled up until that point.
Not kind of, we played so bad offensively at the start, and it just like nothing seemed in the first quarter to go our way, and it was like, oh my gosh. And you could like no doubt the momentum was on their side, and our defense had played like decently well against Hall of Famer and Peyton Manning, and our offense didn't play very well, and just like nerves, right? But the longer I'm in the league, the longer I understand like the big like momentum is 100% a thing. Like absolutely. If you give an NFL team a second chance at anything, usually it ends up really bad for the team that gave them the second chance. And that was sort of what happened on that play. I just remember wide open, he just straight up drops it, and it was almost like a sigh of relief, like, hey, stop the bleeding, like give us something, do something to stop the bleeding. Yeah. And we ended up going in at halftime, and obviously everyone knows what happens to the start of the second half.
That's the next question I want to ask you. Yeah. So again, by the way, you guys did an amazing job. I think you tied it up at the half, right? There was a crazy play down by the goal line and the 2-point conversion. When or did you know that Sean was going to call the onside kick to start the second half?
Hell yeah. Sean made it known right when we came in. We're doing ambush. We're doing ambush to start the second half. Morstead, who's a rookie, who came in with me, get your mind right. He'd been practicing it all year long. And it's sort of crazy. It actually wasn't like, I saw some of these reps in practice of him doing it. I mean, he literally kicks the ball and it's just spinning like this. It like multiple times it would go past 10 and it would come all the way back like 6 or 7 yards. So it ended up 3 yards away, but it crossed the line. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. So the actual one in the Super Bowl wasn't super great. It more like it like spun and sort of died. And it was enough, yeah. But I mean, like talk about the balls on Sean Payton to call that in his only Super Bowl to start the half. I mean, honestly, like it reinvigorated the sideline. And
it changed the game completely. It changed the game completely. No so when you heard him say, "We're going ambush," what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Hell yeah. Like, let's go. Like, let's do it. Like, yes, like go give Drew, who, had an amazing year that year, go give Drew another possession. Like, if you can steal a possession in a game like that, whether it be a takeaway, turnover, onside kick, muff punt, like whatever it is, like you're going to do it. And, if you can have 12 possessions, the other team has 10, it's usually, 11 and 11,
Right.
12, 12. If you can have one or two more possessions in your team, like there's a good chance you're going to win if you don't turn the ball over.
Yeah. So obviously that play changed the game completely. And then there was the play that sealed the win. And that was the Tracy Porter pick six. As that play is unfolding and you see the interception, what's going through your mind?
Well, we had been, it's called an Indy route, and it's what Peyton Manning is known for. He threw 5 million 5 yards in, 5 yards in, and he was the best quarterback ever. It's not an easy throw, and those receivers have such a good feel. And I just remember the defensive coaches that week, like, hey, like, we're going to play off. They're probably going to double move us. They might hit it, but we're going to take one of these away from Peyton because that's literally 1st and 10. That's like their favorite drive starter. And I didn't have a great view of the interception. We were on the bench.
I'm watching it now, by the way. Just so you know, I'm watching it now as we're telling the story. I'm watching it.
Yes, like it's crazy. Like I get goosebumps still because like we were on the bench, and all of a sudden I just hear Mark Brunell scream. Like the crowd goes wild, but I hear Mark Brunell scream at the top of his lungs, like, "Oh my god!" Like, and Drew and I are like, "What just happened?" And we run to the sideline, and we're like, "Oh, we're thinking just like pick it, fall down, like whatever." He just starts running it back, and I'm like, this game is over and we just won a Super Bowl. Like it's unbelievable. And then the party afterwards was just epic. The parade was epic. I mean, just everything was just, it was amazing.
Party with the Lombardi. Yeah. For people that don't understand, I mean, they were moving. It was 3rd and 5. I think they were on your 25-yard line or 35-yard line.
Oh yeah.
It was a 7-point game. I mean, that literally was the nail in the coffin, and Tracy Porter sealed that Super Bowl ring for you. So listen, you played everywhere, right? That's sort of the running joke. It started in Washington, then you go to New Orleans, then it's Kansas City, then Philadelphia, then New Orleans the second time around, the Bears, the Lions, and now you're with the Chargers. If you could pick one place, like what has been your favorite place to play? And I get you have to say right now, Los Angeles. I understand that, but let's say you're a free agent right now. Like where was the place that you felt like this just everything works for me?
Honestly, it was, there's a lot. I've been a part of some really good locker rooms, and people will tell you that a locker room, there's like 10 or 8 locker rooms that actually have it together. And what I mean by that, there's no bad apples. There's nobody bringing everyone down. It's literally one thing and one thing only. It's about winning. Like, how can we win? There's 8 or 10, and I feel like I've been on like 3 or 4 of those, but to answer your question, like New Orleans was super special to me because we won a Super Bowl. I played there the longest anywhere of my career, 4 years. But to me, what was even more special is probably Kansas City. And for a multitude of reasons.
I thought you'd say that.
Yeah. And one of them, the main ones, is because I was able to get in on the ground floor with Andy Reid. We were 2-14 the year before in 2012. They bring trade for Alex Smith. And then right away, like he's like, hey, our biggest thing is like, we want Chase. Like I was wanted. And it's like, I just remember everyone saying like, Coach Reid is like one of the coolest coaches to play for. He is like a second dad. He expects perfection, but he is so good with quarterbacks. And I just remember telling myself like, I want to go play for Andy Reid. So that was the first year. I think we started 9-0, and then that game was the Indy game where they came back from like 28 points down in the 2013 divisional round. But also, like, my wife and entire family is from there, so I was dating my wife at the time. When I moved there, we were engaged and married a year later. So it was like really cool to do 2 full years. I was there 3, but 2 full years married with her family in Kansas City, and also just so close to Mizzou. So it was just a fun time all the way around.
All right, why don't we take our first break here with Chase? And when we come back, we'll talk about what's going on in the AFC West this year and how it's basically an arms race to try and stop one dude. And that dude would be Patrick Mahomes. We're back with Chase Daniel on Half Forgotten History right after this. It is a scientific fact. Here at Half Forgotten History, we have the smartest listeners around. And we want you to be smart with your money too, because that's kind of a big deal. And U.S. Bank offers a wide range of credit cards for a wide variety of financial needs. And one of its most useful cards is the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card. With a low introductory APR for 24 billing cycles, this card is a tool for getting ahead. The U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card is a savvy financial move for large purchases, unexpected expenses, we all have those, and balance transfers. And with the ability to customize your payment date, this card really gives you control and flexibility over your financial future. Apply now at usbank.com/platinum. With the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card, you can be worry-free for the next 2 years. And to see if you qualify for the best introductory APR out there, visit usbank.com/platinum. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is U.S. Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Some restrictions may apply. All right, back with the backup quarterback of all time in the history of the NFL, Chase Daniel, currently with the Los Angeles Chargers. First of all, thank you again for the tickets for the Thursday night game. I was, after that tweet with Ryan Clark, we exchanged, and you got us seats for that Thursday night game between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Freaking amazing. One of the greatest games I've ever been to in my life. Absolutely crazy. But this to me, this AFC West offseason has been insane. Okay? You guys get J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack. The Raiders pick up Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones. The Denver Broncos get frickin' Russell Wilson to go with Jerry Jeudy and all their offensive weapons.
Yes.
Let's be clear, right? This is all about stopping one dude, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the arms race of the AFC, and it lives in the AFC West. And I think some of these teams just got sick and tired of dealing with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and thank goodness Tyreek Hill's shipped off to the Dolphins, because that'll make it a little easier, not a lot, but a little. And they've been, let's be real, let's call it what it is. They're the class of the AFC, and they have been. They have multiple AFC championships, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl. I mean, they are the class, and I think. I think people were just like, hey, and GMs were like, we got to load up. Like, we got to load up on defense. Chargers, I mean, for us, it was like, hey, we're pretty set on offense. Get some fill-in guys, right tackle, RB2, maybe another receiver. But, let's load up on defense. From the D lineman that we got to stop the run, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa's already there. Obviously, J.C. Jackson, one of the best ball-hawking corners in all of football. And then the Raiders are like, oh, well, if you guys are doing it, then we're going to do it. So it's and then Denver's like, hold this one. I got Russell Wilson coming over here. And we're we're just like, oh my gosh. And it's actually sort of fun playing on a team in the AFC West, because you're every single game in the West is going to be find your popcorn. How many primetime games, all three out of the 4 teams got all 5 primetime games. So it's of course, it's star power to the max, and it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be tough. I feel like we might beat up on each other a little bit, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, along those lines, and we're going to talk about your team in a second. But for a guy who watches, right, and sees Mahomes, what is it about him that you say that makes you say, "Damn"? What is it specifically for a guy who plays the position? What is it about what Mahomes does that makes you go, God, this guy's ridiculous?
Well, everyone talks about arm strength, right? He's got it. You see the bombs he does. You're like, oh, that's a pretty deep ball. But what I think separates him a little bit from a lot of people is the arm talent. Now, there's a difference. Not arm strength, arm talent.
Yes.
And it is throwing. It is multiple things. It's throwing in a very congested pocket at a funny angle. It is on the run. It is throwing with your left. It is all those things that he brings, that he can just God-given skills. He never has to just be perfectly set in rhythm. Drew Brees. When Drew Brees is in rhythm back in the day, he is super dangerous. It's not like that with Mahomes. It is hey, 3, your feet are. He doesn't have he doesn't have great footwork from a purist quarterback coach that would say it, but what makes him special is he just the off-platform throws that he's able to do, and just he's got a little bit of luck too. You see some of these, he's had 30 dropped interceptions in the last 3 years, some crazy stat. So there's sort of an aura about him, and what I like about him though, he makes everyone around him better, and he brings everyone up to his level, and that's what makes him so dangerous. And obviously, when you throw in a Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, doesn't hurt either.
No, that's also true. Although a lot of those dropped interceptions, I will say, he sees the flag and he heaves it up there knowing, hey, I got a free play. He does that a lot. Then there's your guy, Justin Herbert. And I'm going to say this, we all missed. There were a couple people, Amy Trask, who does a great job for CBS. She kept telling me, don't believe all this stuff. This kid's going to be great. What is it that when Herbert walks in, what did you know right away? Like, damn, this guy, he's going to be good.
When I first met him last year, I would say like his demeanor and just how he carries himself in the facility around his teammates. Like a situation for him is never too big. It's never too much or too much pressure. Like it's just like slow, smooth, steady. And then like I would take his arm right now, and I'm not being. I would take his arm over Mahomes. Like I catch his balls like warming up like every day, his footballs, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like he throws a heavy ball, Trey, and like what I mean by that is just like it gets on you and it gets on you fast. Like and it's just special. Like his rookie year might be one of the greatest rookie years of all time for any quarterback in terms of like what he was able to do and put up production wise. And what's cool about him is going into his third year now, how he's starting to take charge, how he's already even more so stepping into that leadership role. And I think that is what's so great about this offense and how we can take our next steps is when the quarterback takes accountability for what's going on, talks to the receivers, tight ends, running backs, all those things. That's when I think a really good offense can be great.
Yeah, and listen, obviously Herbert, I think he threw for 5,000 yards last year. He's phenomenal. But I got to ask you about the play last game of the regular season. The craziest scenario would be that Sunday night game, a tie gets both you guys into the postseason,
I've
right?
never seen anything like it.
And it was like just the way everything played out. That there's like, oh my God, this actually may exist. This actually may happen. And then the scenario played out, and then Brandon Staley, who I think is going to be a really good head coach, and he is notorious for going for it. He called the timeout. He said he wanted to get the correct personnel on the field. And that timeout allowed the Raiders to adjust what they wanted to do, and then they kicked the field goal to win the game. And a tie would have gotten both of you guys. And I think at that point, they were thinking about the tie. The Raiders were thinking about the tie.
There's no way they were thinking about the tie. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. I'm telling you, I was there on the field, and I know what it looks like from on TV. I promise you that they were not doing that. They were too close. And I will say, I will back up Brandon Staley because we were in dime personnel, right? And it's like third and short. It's like, hey, we want to get our 6-2 package on there. So I get it. And there was still a lot of time. I just –
it was like 38
I had a
seconds
feeling
left.
that there's absolutely not. Yeah. I mean – they were still almost in field goal range too.
But did you guys?
But
that was
going to be crazy.
It was nuts. Like, there were all these scenarios. Hey, let's just punt every time, going into the game, and we'll both see in the postseason. What was your guys' thought process on how you were going to play that game, knowing what the scenario was?
Well, we got. What was interesting is we got sort of flexed from the 1 to the 4:25 game. So it wasn't even the night game because they wanted to, there was a bunch of scenarios that were, so okay, we got flex. That's interesting. And then, we don't even realize that we can get to the playoffs by tying until Wednesday or Thursday of that week. And Brandon Staley was up front, hey, we got to win or tie. And guys were like, tie? When was the last time that's ever happened to hey,
never.
Well,
that scenario never.
If we tie, we both get in. It's not like you don't need a tie; they need a tie too. So it's it was. I mean, it was one of the craziest scenarios. And what I remember about that game is not the timeout or anything like that, but the crazy amount of times we threw the ball in the fourth quarter, the crazy amount of fourth down conversions, most in the last 50 years. Right? Yeah. We had 7 or 8, and just heartbreaking, just truly heartbreaking because we left it all on the field. We felt like we were a really good team. We just want to get in the tournament. And Brandon before pregame was hey, listen, just so you guys know, I am not playing for a tie. We are going out there and we are going to give it our best. We're going to try our hardest and hopefully come out with a win. But there was no point in time from our team, at least Brandon Staley was hey, let's just tie it. let's just play for the tie. It was always like, and guys respected it. Like guys like, heck yeah, like let's go out and ball out and try to get a win. But I mean, I've been a part of some crazy games. That was just how it ended. The
It's
fourth and
nuts.
20 touchdown pass, getting to over. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah. Well, it really started. I think that really was a playoff game. We just had the most insane playoffs I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. So, of course, it would make sense that that would be the thing that got everything going. So, here's your chance, right? Because pundits, they do it. They wait to the result and then they react instead of the actual was it the right decision or not. So, here's your opportunity as a member of the Chargers to say to those fans of the Chargers that were criticizing the decision or the pundits out there that said it made no sense. Here is your chance to defend Brendan Staley. What would you say to all those people?
I'd say the guys in the locker room love him. The guys love his aggressiveness. He's not going to change. Our DNA of the team is not going to change. He has it all. Honestly, like he's really smart. He played quarterback right in college, but he's a defensive coordinator, and I'm just excited for people to see our team and just how much we've grown in year two, right? That's when you see the biggest jump under new head coaches. If
Yep.
you're trending the right way, we are by far trending the right way. I'm there every day. I live it. We have such a young team, and I think the games from last year, the adversity we faced together, it's pretty much a new team. And then we added some superstars. There's a lot of the same core players there, and that's a big deal. So I'm just excited. I just don't want to have to use silent cadence at home anymore. So Chargers fans,
Yeah.
come on out. Let's not use silent cadence at home. Come support your
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah. Let's not make it a home game for the other team, is what we're trying to say.
Yes.
All right. Well, why don't we take our second break? When we come back, we'll find out what the future holds for Chase Daniel if he ever stops playing football. We're coming right back on Half Forgotten History. It is a scientific fact. Here at Half Forgotten History, we have the smartest listeners around. And we want you to be smart with your money too, because that's kind of a big deal. And US Bank offers a wide range of credit cards for a wide variety of financial needs. And one of its most useful cards is the US Bank Visa Platinum Card. With a low introductory APR for 24 billing cycles, this card is a tool for getting ahead. The US Bank Visa Platinum Card is a savvy financial move for large purchases, unexpected expenses, we all have those, and balance transfers. And with the ability to customize your payment date, this card really gives you control and flexibility over your financial future. Apply now at usbank.com/platinum. With the US Bank Visa Platinum Card, you can be worry-free for the next 2 years. And to see if you qualify for the best introductory APR out there, visit usbank.com/platinum. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is US Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Incorporated. Some restrictions may apply. All right, back with Chase Daniel here on this episode of Half Forgotten History. So, look, hey, you're into year 14. How long do you envision this? Like, are you going to keep going as long as someone is willing to sign you, or are you like, I'd like to be a Charger, and then if that doesn't work out, then we'll figure something else out?
This is really the first time I've said it, but for me and my family, like I am by far, no doubt about it, in the like let's take it 1 year at a time phase of my career.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, and people are like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I want to literally enjoy every single OTA practice, every away trip, every home game, every away. Like, I want to just really soak it in because I understand like my time is like almost done. Like, I get it. 14 years is a lot. But I would like to play. I mean, I just love what we have here. And I love what we have at the Chargers. It helps that it's right up the road, 60 miles away from San Diego, where my family's at.
Yeah.
And it's a big deal for me because I love the guys I work with. But I think for sure, like I obviously, play this year and maybe next year and the year after. I don't know. I'm very content right now with taking it 1 year at a time. Now, you could have told me, honestly, like this is the first time in my career, you could have told me last year, like, hey, you're done after last year. I'd be like, you know what? All right. Like
Yeah.
I got a lot of time outside of my career, after my career to do what I want, and I would have been fine with it. But I'm glad I'm playing now, and I still feel like I can do it and do it at a high level.
Hey man, Tom Brady is taking his career 1 year at a time for the last 15 years. He's 45 and he's playing. Like, you could play forever, bro. Like, you could literally, you might be the Tom Brady of backup quarterbacks and doing this at 44.
I would like that. And my goal was really very simple when I started playing. It was like, hey, I want to obviously have kids. We have 3 kids, a 4.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 10-month-old. We're pretty busy right now, actually. Speaking of that. But my goal was to play long enough to where my oldest son was able to recognize and understand what dad did. Yeah. And he finally got to that age this year where he could go to a game with my wife at 4 years old and sit there and not really understand it, but also understand what dad does. Sure. And understand like how cool it is. Like, I'm not gonna it is so cool that dad gets to go out there and play in front of thousands of fans and gets to suit it up and go play a game for a living, play a sport for a living. And that was like one of my big things. Like, I want to play that long. And I think it'll be even more, he'll understand the game even more this year. So that was a big deal to me. And it was pretty cool to watch it happen.
Oh, that's interesting. Cause like when I had Eli and Archie on the episode once, and Eli was like, I really thought of my dad as a broadcaster more than a football player. Like, I was really young when he played. I saw him more as the radio guy for the New Orleans Saints than as the quarterback for a bunch of teams. So when your playing career is done, do you want to get into the business? You want to do? Well, we've talked about this before. Do you want to call games? Do you want to be an analyst? What do you want to do?
We've talked about this a lot, Trey, and I think you've been one of my biggest corners. Like, hey, you should pursue it, and I'd love to get into broadcasting. I think that I'm a natural at it. I'm good at it. Do I want to call games, be a studio analyst? I don't know. Just a little bit of everything, and just fill it out and just see how it is. A lot of people are saying, hey, you would be like the best coach ever. I'm like, I would, but I also understand how much I've given this game.
Coaching is a different level.
The family time family's very important, as you can tell to me. Yeah. Like, I would never see them. Like, I never see them now when I'm a player. Coaches are double that. Yeah. I'm not taking it off the table, but I think without a doubt, the next thing will be something in broadcast for sure.
Well, listen, I think that'll happen. You're a natural at it. And we had you on ESPN a bunch of times. And you're doing great stuff here. So in 23 years, when you've stopped playing, we will see Chase Daniel somewhere. You're going to retire. You're going to retire as the king of backup quarterbacks. That's a pretty, like Crash Davis in the movie Bull Durham hated being the home run leader of the minor leagues. This is not that. You are going to retire as the king of the backup quarterbacks. That's like the best title ever.
I don't hate it. And maybe one day I've told you some exclusive stories. I have a lot more. I might write a book one day and just go into every single year and story. And just like, I've thought about it I started like writing some stuff down. Who knows if it'll come to fruition, but it's been a good career. Hopefully it keeps going. And I really do feel like God has put me on this earth to like be a part of football. So like whatever I do after football, it's going to be in football. So that's something that I'm excited about.
This platform is here for all your information. We just want you to know that. So ladies and gentlemen, let us say goodbye to the man. 14 years, 5 starts, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, $40 million. As I said in the tweet, bow to your king, Chase.
You've been saving that all show, haven't you? That tagline, man. I love it.
That's the best. All right, be well, and I'll hit you up for some tickets this season, okay?
For sure. Come on out, man. Appreciate you.
All right, brother. See you. So once again, thanks to Chase. Awesome guy. Has so many great stories. We're going to try and figure out a way to get him more included in what we're doing here at Trey Wingo Presents, because he's a lot of fun. And listen, when he stops playing in 2029, maybe he will have a career in broadcasting. So thanks to Chase. And thank all of you for listening and watching. That's it for Season 7 of Half Forgotten History, but we are not done. We're going to take a break for a couple of weeks. We've already got a bunch of Hall of Famers lined up for Season 8. It is going to be phenomenal. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks with Season 8 of Half Forgotten History.